Although my message will be unfortunately not able to have as much impact as Arthur, I hope to still all give you a little sense of what it was like being Medina, to meet a man who literally, quite literally, changed my perspectives. To achieve anything, one must have certain impetus inside of them. They must have a fuel that burns to keep them going, and that fuel is called drive. And yet, let me throw a rhetorical question at you, fellow Cavaliers. What is drive? What is this word? What is this word that has such persuasion upon our fellow man while retaining its full value? This question was a resounding and fitting theme during our sojourn to Medina. The entire day reflected upon this theme's inability to contemplate what really drive truly was. This theme was quite noticeable when we visited World Life Institute. I think I speak for all when I say that. We saw drive. And we saw drive that perhaps we will never be able to achieve. We saw drive that was uncontemplatable. Drive of the people to do what was just, to do something they saw that they needed to do. They volunteered their time, their own money, everything to help these orphans. And I'm standing up here in a suit, in a tie. Their devotion and drive was something beyond me. But it was during our visit to Dr. Durakovic's house that a wave of overwhelming bafflement flabbergasted me and shipwrecked me on the island of absolute confusion. Mr. Durakovic was someone that struck me as a wise man, if you will, a wise mentor, much like you would see in sort of any Disney movie. The man that trains the hero to be who he is, that teaches him the life lesson that he needs to succeed in his quest. And his presence was something else as well. This is a man we're talking about here, who was a U.S. Army colonel, who has had all these credits given to him. And yet, his presence was just, he wanted to be there. He didn't want to be gratified. And though we tried to grace him, like the phenomenal human that he was, he modestly asked us to sit down and proposed only to have a casual conversation with us kids. And yet, he spoke with a level of elegance and eloquence that I could not expect, and I don't think I will ever be able to top. He spoke with this level that I can't explain with words. It did something to me. He spoke, yes, something was wrong. Something I didn't understand. Something was missing. Because when I see a man like that, their eyes have drive. Their eyes don't really shine. When you see a man of such caliber, their eyes shine like a brilliant torch in the nebulous and aphotic universe, like the twinkle, twinkle stars, they twitter in the night, in the darkness of the night. But in Mr. Durakovic's eyes, I saw no such brightness. I saw only a lit candle, a small but glimmering light in the shadow of his cornea. And I made a hypothesis to myself. I said to myself, oh, maybe his ambitions have been realized. His drive, his explosive drive has been diffused by the passage of time because he succeeded so much. But I wasn't satisfied with that answer. And I wanted to ask him, but I was a little preoccupied with eating grapes and, grape tomatoes and poetry. I love the poetry, by the way. You guys really should have been there. The poetry was, and the grape tomatoes are, But getting back to a little more seriousness, this is a great mistake on my part to think that he had somehow already achieved every ambition there was. I kept on, reading poetry and eating tomatoes, but his eyes, like the old saying says, an eye is the window to a person's spirit, to his soul. And yet inside of them I saw just a lit candle, not the nebulous, wonderful stars of the universe. And I wondered to myself, can I ask him what drives him? What makes him who he is? And I couldn't. I was a little, to be honest, nervous talking to him. So if any of you recall at that day, when I entered the bus, I asked Miss Zadie a question. I asked her, what drives Dr. Durakovic? And she said very simply to me, he just keeps on going. He keeps on going. And that is something I could not comprehend at the time. Because I will be fully honest with you as I'm standing here right now. I'd love to be in the center of attention, and I'm giving a speech right now, which is bad. But I'm that type of person. I'm a very selfish, egotistical person. And I've come to realization with that, and it's something I do want to change, and it's something I saw that was completely different in Rock. He wasn't that type of person. And I kept thinking to myself, how is it possible you can just do what you do and just keep on going? And then at that moment, I had an epiphany. Of course he had drive, but I realized it was something different. Because for you see, most people in a period, for a small period of their lives, they have drive. They are shining stars. They are beautiful torches in the night, stars in the night. But like every star who burns on ambition and desire, a star eventually collapses, and it becomes a black hole, never to shine again. All stars die out, just like all drive, at least I thought in the beginning, would eventually die. And the result of these dead stars or dead ambitions is normally, either fulfilling contentment at my incredible things that I've done, or just some sort of solemn dejection at failure. And but something was different. And that's why his eyes were a candle. Because a candle is unextinguishable. You can use it, and you can use it again. If it's put out, simply light it up again. It's not the same with a star. Sure, a star burns more brightly and looks more amazing, but a candle has one aspect of it that a star can never topple, that it can be refueled, that it is lasting, everlasting. And this was the difference between, I think, Dr. Durakovic and many of the other people I've ever met in my life. And it's that his drive was not just a temporary moment of amazement. It was a lifelong goal, a true lifelong goal. A goal that would literally be until the end of his life. And that's why his ambition and his drives cannot just be like a star and die away. It has to be a candle, it has to keep going. He wasn't just another overachiever. He was an overachiever that literally never stopped. A continuous machine with a continuous flame. He is someone that I, as a Cavalier, as a human, as any human being, show high amounts of deference to. And I'm not saying this just because it's some sort of speech and I want high speakers or something like that. On that day, I went home and I couldn't sleep. I stayed up until 4 o'clock in the night. And I thought to myself, what am I doing in my life? I've been, testing myself, trying to get all these titles and whatnot. And then there's a man here who will achieve more than anything I've ever done in my entire life. And he devotes himself to a couple orphans in another area of the world. He is someone with true drive.